The Hurt Locker is a gripping war drama that follows the lives of an elite Army bomb squad unit in Iraq as they battle to survive the daily perils of their dangerous mission. The team must work together to defuse and dispose of bombs while facing the constant threat of death. In 2004, three brave soldiers from an Army bomb disposal unit were sent to investigate a report of an improvised explosive device in Baghdad. Utilizing a sophisticated robot drone, the unit discovered the IED was composed of several undetonated artillery shells wired together and hidden beneath plastic and fabric sheets. After careful consideration, Sergeant Thompson determined that the IED could be safely detonated using plastic explosives from a safe distance. Thompson assured that the explosion would cause minimal property damage and no loss of life. Thompson, dressed in a bulky bomb suit, is sent back into the blast zone with a small cart affixed to the robot. Unfortunately, the trailer loses a wheel before it can reach the IED. Undeterred, Thompson bravely walks down to the trailer and picks it up, carrying it to the IED and rigging it properly. With his mission accomplished, he begins his walk back to safety with his partners Sergeant Sanborn and Specialist Eldridge quickly scan the area for any suspicious individuals or those who may be in the blast zone. As Thompson was about 25 meters from the bomb, still in the kill zone, Eldridge noticed a man running a butcher shop and using a cellular phone. Without hesitation, Eldridge yelled to Sanborn and began to run towards the man, ordering him to drop his phone. Sanborn shouted for Eldridge to shoot the man, who then pressed a sequence of numbers on the phone. Unfortunately, before anyone could react, the bomb detonated with Thompson still in the kill zone. The overpressure from the bomb was so powerful that it killed Thompson despite his bomb suit. A large splash of blood hit the inside of his clear visor helmet. Sanborn carefully packs Thompson's body into a coffin for shipment home. He takes a few moments to look over Thompson's possessions before the coffin is sealed. Back at the base, Eldridge is sitting in the rec room when LT, Call, Cambridge, the base psychologist, walks in and asks how he is feeling in the wake of Thompson's death. Eldridge is clearly still upset. He dry fires his rifle several times, suggesting that if he had shot the man with the cell phone, Thompson might still be alive. The following day, the team was dispatched to investigate a report of an IED on a narrow street in the city. Upon arriving at the scene, they linked up with an Army platoon that had reported the bomb. James was dressed in a suit similar to Thompson's, and he threw a smoke grenade as he approached the bomb site. This agitated Sanborn, who couldn't see James to give him further instructions. James was also uncommunicative with his team members, which further frustrated Sanborn. After some searching, James discovered an artillery shell buried under a small pile of trash. James easily disarms the first shell and then notices a secondary wire leading away from it. Following the cable, he discovers a junction of 6 more shells. When James pulls on the connector, 6 more shells are uncovered. Another cable leads to a nearby building. James quickly disarms the 6 new shells. As he does, he notices a man quickly leaving the building, presumably the bomber. He flashes one of the small detonators from one of the shells and smiles at the man, who vanishes from sight. Back at their Humvee, Sanborn tells James that he needs to communicate more during operations and not act as if it's a solo mission. James brushes his teammate off but later reconsiders when they talk while grooming themselves for another day's work in the latrine. The team is once again summoned to respond to a bomb threat. This time, the explosive device is located inside a car parked in front of a United Nations building. As the building is evacuated, James dons the bomb suit and cautiously approaches the car, which suddenly bursts into flames. Quickly, he uses a fire extinguisher to put out the blaze and begins to inspect the car. Eldridge and Sanborn take up their positions as lookouts while James opens the trunk and discovers several artillery shells of the same type he had seen earlier That day, realizing that his bomb suit won't provide enough protection from such a powerful explosive, James takes it off completely, knowing that if it detonates, it could kill everyone in its vicinity, including his teammates, even if they take cover. James carefully disarms the shells and begins to search the car for the triggering device. It takes several tense minutes, during which Sanborn tries to communicate with James through a headset. However, James finds it distracting and pulls it off, throwing it aside. As he searches the car, Sanborn and Eldridge notice several groups of Iraqis watching them from rooftops and from a minaret, as well as a man filming the incident with a video camera. Finally, James finds the triggering device and detaches it. When he returns to the Hummer, he lights a cigarette, only to be met with an angry Sanborn who had been trying to communicate with him throughout the process. James appears unfazed by the situation, not even a hint of anger towards Sanborn. A colonel on the scene is taken aback by James' composure and his ability to remain so calm in such a crisis. When asked how many bombs he had disposed of, James gave an exact number, further impressing the colonel. At the base perimeter, Sergeant James encountered an Iraqi boy who was selling pirated DVDs to the soldiers. The boy, who had named himself Beckham, had sold James a movie a few days prior. Unfortunately, the DVD was of poor quality, and so but warned him that if it was defective this time, there would be consequences. The team ventures out to the desert to detonate some of the explosives they've collected on their missions. As they prepare to set off another bomb, James quickly drives down to the blast zone to retrieve the gloves he left behind. While he's away, Sanborn suggests to Eldridge that it would be easy for them to frag James by exploding the bomb and claiming it was an accident due to the dangerous nature of the explosives. Fortunately, Eldridge is able to talk Sanborn out of it. Heading back to the city, Sanborn and his team spot two SUVs parked on their road. As they approach, the men standing near the vehicles drop their weapons in obedience to Sanborn's orders. Suddenly, one of them reveals himself to be a British commando. He explains that they have a flat tire, but before he can finish, he is hit by sniper fire and falls. Everyone runs for cover. The bomb unit and the British soldiers find themselves pinned down. Tragically, one of the Brits is killed while manning the Hummer's .50 caliber machine gun. The British team leader takes up a sniper's position on a small, rocky hill and begins to return fire with a Barrett rifle, shooting at a distant stone building where the enemy sniper and a small group are hiding. Unfortunately, he is hit in the chest by the enemy sniper and killed. Sanborn takes up the man's rifle and James spots for him using a powerful scope. They fire several shots back at their enemy but soon run out of ammunition for the rifle. James has Eldridge search the dead man's pouches and he finds a full magazine. However, due to the man's blood having leaked onto the rounds, they must be cleaned off before they can be used in the Barrett rifle. James and Sanborn team up to take out the enemy troops in the building. With James spotting, they are able to successfully eliminate all of them. Suddenly, Eldridge notices a potential sniper lurking behind James and Sanborn and takes action by opening fire. Although uncertain of the outcome, Eldridge's shot proves to be successful as the other man is killed. After the incident in the desert, James and his teammates found that they could work together as a team. To celebrate, they gathered at James' housing unit and took turns pounding each other on the chest and drinking. They discussed why James was such a maverick teammate and how he got into their line of work. To show them the danger of his job, James opened a box of parts he had collected from nearly every bomb he had disarmed. Eldridge and Sanborn were surprised but now knew that James was truly a team player. Colonel Cambridge is accompanying the team on their next mission to patrol a building where bomb-making materials have been spotted. While the team searches the interior of the building, Cambridge remains outside. Inside, they discover the bomb-making supplies and signs that the bomb makers had recently departed. James discovers the lifeless body of a young boy, Beckham, in the building. He orders Sanborn and Eldridge to leave and notices a large incision in the boy's chest. Upon further inspection, he finds several pounds of plastic explosive in the boy's abdominal cavity. He carries the body outside to the Humvee. Just as Cambridge is trying to clear the locals from the street, another IED detonates, taking his life. Eldridge is unable to accept Cambridge's death and searches for him in vain, finding only his helmet lying in the blast area. Back at the base, James encounters a man selling DVDs at the perimeter. He inquires if the man knows Beckham, but due to his limited limited English, he is unable to provide any information. James then turns to the nearby sergeant for assistance and is informed that the man has been cleared. After the man packs up his merchandise and leaves, James jumps into his truck and forces him to take him to Beckham's house. Upon entering the house, James finds another man in the kitchen who is understandably scared but surprisingly hospitable. James demands to know where Beckham is at gunpoint, but the man doesn't know. Realizing he had mistakenly entered the wrong home, James turns to leave when the man's wife appears and begins to yell and throw things at him. Making his way back through the city, James passes hundreds of angry-looking locals. Upon arriving at the main gate of the base, he announces he's a U.S. soldier and is promptly arrested. The team was dispatched to the scene of a bomb blast late at night. Upon arriving, they discovered that a suicide bomber had detonated an explosive near an oil tanker truck, resulting in a massive explosion. James surveyed the perimeter and concluded that the bomber had not taken their own life, but had instead triggered the blast from outside of the blast radius. Furious, James ordered Sanborn and Eldridge to comb the surrounding streets in search of the perpetrator. Sanborn and James split up, but shots soon ring out. When they reunite, they spot Eldridge being dragged away by two unknown men. Without hesitation, they open fire, killing the kidnappers. Unfortunately, James also hits Eldridge in the leg. The incident leaves James deeply distressed and he nearly breaks down in the shower, while still wearing his clothes. The following day, James and Sanborn meet Eldridge at the helicopter that will evacuate him. As he approaches their Humvee, they are surprised to see Beckham, alive and well. Beckham attempts to talk to Eldridge, but James ignores him. Sanborn and James rush to the scene of another bomb report and find a man standing alone in the middle of a large plaza. James orders the translator to tell the man to get down on his knees. As he approaches, James notices that the man is wearing several pounds of C4 explosives attached to several steel bars, all locked together with large padlocks. The man pleads for his life, saying he has a family. With only 2 minutes left on the timer, James frantically tries to cut the locks, but there are too many and he must reluctantly leave the man behind. Seconds later, the bomb detonates, killing the man and sending James flying out of the blast area in his bomb suit. Sanborn rushes to him, believing he has been killed like Thompson was. However, James is only stunned and soon regains consciousness. As they make their way back to base, Sanborn is still shaken by the incident and expresses his fear that he will die in Iraq without ever having had a wife or children. James tries to reassure him that he will make it back home safely and have a family one day. James is overwhelmed by the sheer number of cereal options in the store and unable to adjust to home life. His relationship with his wife and daughter becomes increasingly strained. In a moment of clarity, he decides to return to Iraq, and the movie ends with him beginning a new rotation and approaching another bomb site in his suit.